Hello.
Hello.
Yes, we're.
Yes, we're
Oh, fuck off!
oh,
Fuck off! You...
that might be a reference to anyone who gets it.
Well, it's
Go
okay.
on.
We're doing our review of the new episode of Doctor Who called The Well.
Yes, we are. Well.
Well. Opening statements. What do you think?
This is my favourite of the three episodes. I'm not yet quite sure if I like it or not.
Well,
I'm still mulling it over, but this is the one that I'm closest to liking. There's a lot I like about it. There's a lot that I find derivative, and there's a lot that pisses me off. So, yes.
well.
Your thoughts?
So you'll know this, Jordan, but if anybody's watching, which they're not, they won't. What's my favourite episode of Doctor Who ever?
Midnight.
Midnight. I don't just think it's my favourite episode of Doctor Who. I think it's the best. There's so much in there.
Yes.
The tone is great. It's creepy. The acting's great. The characters are great. There's lots of stuff in there about the Doctor and his relationship with humanity. There's some mob mentality stuff in there, which is great. Every character has a point and sort of purpose, and it's not everybody's chomping at the bit to kill him. There's people who go along with it because they feel they should, and it's fucking great. It's so I read the leaks that said episode 3 was going to be a sequel to Midnight, and I wasn't pleased.
Okay.
And I've seen the episode, and it reminds me of Max Brooks's, because the first thing I did after I finished the episode, I rewatched Midnight,
Okay.
and Max Brooks, who wrote World War Z, was asked what he thought about the film adaptation, and he said he didn't feel offended because it didn't resemble his book in any real way.
Yeah, I think that's a fair representation of that
Yeah,
of his source material and the film. Yeah,
and
absolutely. They're two very different.
in part, that's my feeling here. I liked there's stuff I liked about it,
Hmm.
and there's stuff. Bringing in Midnight was just sort of pointless. And
But let's work through it.
okay, all right.
Because for anyone who hasn't seen the episode yet, you shouldn't fucking be here.
No, you shouldn't.
But yeah, as Ben says, this is a Midnight sequel. Now I had seen a teaser on TikTok yesterday and foolishly looked at the comment section, and someone said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was a bit like Midnight?" And I thought, "Oh, okay, maybe there might be Midnight vibes." And I had heard suggestions therefore that it might be a Midnight, and I couldn't help but notice as they were heading towards the dome-like building that looked a bit midnighty.
It looked, yeah, it looked like the Leisure Dome. It's
It
not
did.
the Leisure Dome. The Leisure Dome is a different design, but my feelings on that were exactly the same as yours.
They're similar sort of look, aren't they?
Yes.
I thought that the terrain looked quite cold-like, so I was inclined to believe it was a prequel, which I think could have been a better play overall. But yeah, because it was all dark and cold like ground. I thought, oh, pressure, diamonds.
Yeah.
This will become Midnight in the future. I wasn't expecting it to be 400,000 years after
Yeah.
Midnight sort of episode. But I mean, it was it's fair. It's sort of. I also thought before I'd seen that comment that it could have been a Vashta Narada episode again.
Well, I heard rumors of that circulating, and I also had rumors. I haven't seen the episode because it's like a Peter Capaldi one, but there's something about monsters under the bed or something.
Listen, I think.
Yeah, listen was mentioned. Yeah.
So
and the
anyway,
Satan
yeah,
pit too. That was one that was thrown out.
Yeah, someone suggested that it was hints of that and something else, but not quite really doing either of them properly. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we start off. They materialize the TARDIS on a spaceship of sorts.
Yes, we have our weird tonal shift where Belinda is scared about getting home, and then it's fashion show.
Yeah, because she actually quite likes fashion show. I liked the fact that they started in the clothes that they were finishing last episode. By the way,
Yes, I like that too.
I made a note of that. It doesn't. it's nice to see that therefore there hasn't been a time jump. We've not
Yeah.
missed something, or if we have, it's inconsequential because it's
Mm.
such a small period of time. They're still wearing the same clothes that you have to assume it's the same day.
It does make me wonder how they had the exact uniform, the suits, space
Yes,
suits.
I let me find my note. The timing and matching clothing at the end of the opener is just a bit too silly for me.
Yeah,
Is how I wrote it, because the timing of them getting out of the TARDIS at the exact moment that all the other people were lining up,
yeah,
and then wearing the exact same clothes, which is the only way that could have happened. Really is if he'd looked outside, seen where they were,
yeah,
at which point them jumping out would not be a surprise to him.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. You maybe need a line in there where he is
it
like, yeah,
it bothered me somewhat that when he was talking to them, they sort of ignore it, but the second that they've all landed, they pull guns on them.
yeah.
Like what? Hang on, get your.
You
Why is it okay to pull a gun on him now, but not before he jumps down to the planet that you're stranded with him for the next 5 hours?
This is like massively overwhelmingly time sensitive, but it doesn't appear to be. It's not like we need to jump now because this is our
No,
window.
it's because if it was, you'd think they'd have been there a little bit earlier, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah.
You know, they'd have been waiting there rather than turning up when they get out of the. I don't know. It didn't sit right with me, and a lot of the things that happen in this episode don't quite sit right with me.
And you when they jumped, my assumption was, okay, this is going to be one of those episodes where we are stranded away from the TARDIS, and
Yep.
there's going to be questions about will we ever get back to it again. It's like, no,
Yeah,
we just wait 5
sense.
hours. It's like, okay.
I think it's very much they might as well do what they need to do whilst they're waiting, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Like we might as well have the adventure because what else are we gonna do?
yeah.
And I don't necessarily like that vibe.
Yeah, you put distance from. I mean, I guess in this instance, if the Doctor had the TARDIS available to him, he might have gotten out of there sooner. You know, once he figured out what
Are you
was
there?
going on. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you said in this instance, and then I lost you.
In this instance, the Doctor might have gotten out of there sooner once he'd figured out what was going on. If he had the TARDIS available to him.
Yes. Yeah, you probably would have.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's what worked with Midnight, isn't it? Is that he was trapped in that scenario.
Yes.
He didn't have a choice. He had to, and so I suppose it is trying to recreate that. I did get a lot of Aliens vibe.
Yes, I did.
And not just not just Aliens, Alien 3 as well in the end.
I'm
sure you know exactly what I'm thinking.
I think. Oh yeah, I think so. I liked the I liked the scene where they're looking around the base trying to figure out what the fuck went on.
Yep.
Some people have been shot, and some people have their necks broken, and all the mirrors are destroyed.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, that's compelling. That's creepy. I like that.
Yeah, everything was a nice touch. It was okay. Something more is going on here.
Yes. It's a good.
Fact that
it's a good setup for a Doctor Who episode. Here is a base. We've lost contact with it. They're checking out what's what. We go there. There's all sorts of creepy shit happening. It's like, okay, fucking sold. Love my tone. That's great.
Yeah. The fact that it was a deaf girl that survived, or a deaf woman that survived, made it very clear at the time that it was a sound-based thing. Now I know it's not just sound-based, but there was that whole whispering element behind it, wasn't there?
Well, this is the thing. I saw these leaks and saw that it was a Midnight sequel and that there was a deaf character involved, and I thought, okay, that's. I don't know exactly where they're going with this, but on the surface, that seems kind of smart given what happened in that episode.
Yep.
I wonder how they're going to play that into it. But as you say, there's a very slight sound quality, but it might as well be an entirely different entity.
Yeah. Now you see, I was very much of the. My initial thoughts was why did they make it a midnight creature or the midnight creature? Considering rather than just mimicking people and turning them against each other, it's literally throwing them across the room.
Yes.
But I realised afterwards it's probably picked up some tricks in the last 400,000 years.
Well,
and therefore it's going to have changed its repertoire somewhat. And I sort of learned to accept the fact that that's probably a thing that's happened.
What you're saying is entirely true. But I think from a writing standpoint, and as a viewer, it's so much more compelling in the original episode.
Oh, absolutely.
So much more compelling and so much creepier. Because what we
Mm.
get
Oh, yeah.
now, well, okay, they find the deaf girl, and she's got a wound, and they're healing the wound, and the doctor goes off to check this pit in the main core control thing, and Belinda sees something, which was a really great, effective jump scare. It was creepy. I liked it.
Did you see it the first time?
Where it dashed around the corner.
Yeah, I just hid behind the
Yeah,
desk.
yeah.
Yeah. I see. I didn't catch it because I was making a note, but I heard the sharps.
Yeah.
You know, so I rewound it by the 10, 20 seconds that my player lets you do
Yeah.
to then rewatch it. Because there was a point where I wasn't entirely sure if it was actually something or if they'd done something to sort of induce the collective paranoia.
Yeah.
So you know how you probably don't know this, but in the third Arkham game,
No.
the Batman ones, there's a bit where Batman's sort of infected with Joker's blood,
Right.
which is weird. But he sort of hallucinates for Joker everywhere.
Okay.
And so you, as a player, see the hallucinations because Batman is hallucinating them.
Yeah.
And it's quite an effective thing because what will happen is you'll look at, say, a billboard, and it'll be a jewelry billboard, and someone's face on it will be the Joker's face. You'll look away, you'll look back, and it'll be the normal billboard again.
Right.
And I was wondering if something similar to that was going on in here. So they were filming a thing hiding,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really a thing. It was just, it's in her head. There might be something going on. So she's
Yeah.
picturing it, and so we're seeing it.
Yeah.
I had an idea that was something going on. And I feel like I'd have liked that better,
Yeah.
personally.
Well,
but,
well,
you know.
the deaf lady called Alice. They're communicating with her via these like text screen things, so she can
Yeah, pretty neat.
yeah. And the doctor knows sign language.
Belinda doesn't.
Belinda doesn't, and that's apparently illegal.
Now, in that time, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not even from the same species as them, so what does it matter?
Which begs the question: is it the law that they have to learn multiple languages as well?
Right, I should assume so, yeah.
Probably.
Or perhaps with the device, they don't need to learn multiple because it will translate.
Yeah.
But
well, they don't need to learn sign language either with the device. But hey ho.
I don't know. But I suppose because she's a nurse, she was supposed to have learned it.
So Alice explains that she killed her friend because her friend was trying to kill her.
Yep.
Which doesn't make sense now that I'm thinking about it.
I mean, I don't know which one of them had the creature when the
True.
And that complicates things. Because there's this whole thing, and it's not necessarily accurate based on what we see. But there's this whole idea that if you kill the person who's got the creature lingering behind their back.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Alice has got this creature supposedly behind her.
Yeah.
This creature that is killing people. If you kill the person that has the creature behind them, it goes behind you, is what we get told. In a sort of It Follows sort of way.
Yes, yeah.
That came to mind. I know it's not quite right, because that's a sex thing.
No, I haven't seen the film, but I had the same idea.
And so we don't know who had the creature when the best friend got
okay,
killed. It may have been that Alice had it,
yeah,
and the best friend was trying to kill her to get rid of it, and therefore Alice killed her
that
in self-defense.
makes
accurately.
sense. Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe a mate was trying to turn around or something.
Yeah. Yes, and it's explained that if you go behind her, it'll throw you about.
Yeah, and I mean,
what are the okay, so with Midnight, we never really find out exactly what the entity was trying to do, but it's sort of explained. We get the gist of it, that it possessed Sky Silvestri because she was the most vulnerable there, and then it was sort of soaking in knowledge and intelligence and growing stronger, perhaps. And that was sort of it started speaking after and mimicking, and then it was saying it exactly the same time, and then it stole the Doctor's voice.
And just to be clear, for anyone who didn't get that, that's what I was trying to do at the start.
Yes.
Just in case you didn't get that.
It would be more impressive if you did it at the same time, but
well, I didn't know what you were going to say. I had to do it after. We didn't
Um,
plan this. You didn't even know I was going to do it.
Yes, but there's a reason behind it. You get the logic behind the creepy shit that's going on,
Hmm.
and there's none of that here. And the Doctor's like, "Well, it's playing a game." It's like,
See,
okay,
I made a note here that seems relevant, and I'm going to read it word for word for you. You know, it would have made much more sense for this creature to keep its grubby mitts off people until it had got off the planet. I
yeah.
don't understand why it would, if it wants to leave, which is the implication that we're getting
Well, that's what it wanted
from
last
this.
time. So yeah,
That's we have to assume it wants to leave this place where there's nothing going on
yeah.
and go somewhere else. Why would it? Why does it feel the need to kill every single fucking thing that goes behind? When if it just kept quiet,
I don't
just
know.
kept to itself, they'd have let it go, and then it could have been anywhere.
I mean,
I don't. It's clearly intelligent enough to know to break the mirrors. Clearly,
which is
it understands that that is a threat. That's a sign of intelligence. But it's not clever enough to say, "Oh, actually, hang on a minute, I'm just going to hide."
kind of stupid because diamonds are reflective.
Yeah, but there's no diamonds there anymore.
Well, there were.
It's all underground, aren't they?
Yeah. It's.
But we're assuming it's the same creature.
I know.
In
I did
fairness.
think maybe it's a different entity. I don't.
I doubt it would have evolved much in 400.
It's.
You know.
I mean, I watched this episode and I thought this is shit that seems creepy but doesn't have anything behind it.
Yes.
Ironically enough.
Well, yeah.
Whereas with Midnight, I hate to keep banging on about it, but I wasn't the one who decided it needed a fucking sequel.
No, absolutely.
In the
I.
in the original
Well,
Midnight, yeah, it's creepy, but it makes sense, and there's other stuff going on. And they tried to do the whole people turning against each other thing. Very obviously with everybody shooting each other on the base, but also with the guy who declares code red.
yeah, ears. I called him.
But he was already established to be a bit of a temperamental douche nozzle because the Doctor called him Babes, and he
Didn't like it.
fairly enough was like, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, and it's a reasonable reaction to have.
And the Doctor was a little bitch and called him Hun.
Yeah. But at the same time, Ears was a bit out of his depth.
Mm.
Cassio was his name, I believe.
Yeah, like
like the
calculator.
But I'll call him Ears because it stands out better.
Yeah.
Um,
Very good.
Thank you. This I made a note here as well actually. That this came across an awful lot like the Water Planet episode we talked about.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think
Well,
that this is 2 episodes out of 3 now that have sort of adjacent to an idea that we had.
well, what was the first? Remind
The
me.
first one was it's sort of the
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I sort of the villain is created by something that happens after the story starts, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is the first one. It didn't quite, but it was reminiscent of. And this one again, there's something creepy going on, but there's not actually something, and it is sort of again, it feels sort of similar. It made me think of that.
Yeah.
And that's twice now that's happened in 3 episodes, and I can't help but think you might have sold our stories.
I know.
And Russell T Davies has fucked them up.
Look how they massacred our boys.
Yeah.
But yes,
at least we didn't write any others.
while Belinda's treating, well, I did think of one where the Rani has taken over a prison planet or a space, but so we'll see.
Well, we don't know what's going on with Mrs. Flood.
Yeah. So while Belinda is dealing with Alice, the Doctor goes to this pit and stands perilously close to it, and they're trying to get hold of the CCTV for any sort of clues. The Doctor whips out his sonic screwdriver pad and fixes it, and Ears is a bit pissed off, and is like, "Do I have to follow his orders?" And she's like, "Yes."
Yeah. I liked her, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought, there was something. There wasn't quite enough character there, but there was hints of a proper character.
I feel like this is what getting away from the point a bit. I feel like if this had been a 2-parter that had nothing to do with Midnight and was just creepy shit going on this planet, I would have liked it a lot more.
Yes, the reveal is that there's at the end of the first one is that there's actually a creature there.
Yeah.
And then the second one is for trying to defeat / escape.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of like what happened with the No, no. I was going to say Varas and Narada, but we already knew about them about halfway through.
Whether it's sort of like what happens with the Satan Pit,
Well, yeah.
which is
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
my favorite episodes. But
Yeah.
yes, they find this recording and everybody's freaking the fuck out, and then they start to and Doctor mentions Earth and nobody's heard of it, and Belinda
Yeah.
does the same thing back in her bit, and nobody's heard of Earth or Earthlings or humans. That's a bit weird.
Mhm.
And then he asks for a bit more information about the planet, and they say, well, it used to be covered in diamonds,
Oh, there it is.
and it's like, oh, and yeah, all the extonic radiation is like, oh, like what was this planet called? And she says, well, it was called QR470 or whatever. Like,
6767.
yeah, what was its what was it known as? What was its real name? She says, well, it was called Midnight. He goes, oh no.
See, I want to know why she knows it was called that.
I want to know why nobody's talking about that weird thing that happened 400,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I know,
Yeah, I guess.
I know it was fucking ages ago, but you think presumably the only reason she knows it was called Midnight is because it was included in some high level briefing, right?
And yeah, and you would think that there'd be some sort of there was
You
a
know,
sort of
there
reason about it.
there was insteadly an incident where a bus full of people went missing because after all this time the story's been like distorted,
Yeah.
and they had to close down, and it hasn't been really touched for a long while.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point whatsoever making it a Midnight sequel.
I,
Like
I
none.
I didn't like that bit where he was talking about how if it was a clock face
Oh, that was stupid.
and then you die at midnight, and I thought, oh, that's such a forced line, isn't it?
Yeah.
That someone thought it would be a fun thing to say and I tried to get a picture of that actually, but literally right after that, yeah, because you've got one of the pictures is that,
Mm.
and it's like it's literally this is someone who had an idea. They haven't thought about how fucking awful it actually sounds. They think it's cool, and it isn't. It just isn't cool.
Mm.
Russell, it isn't cool. Okay, I understand that you wanna make good on these things that people like, but you can't. This is the same issue I had with. Remember what one of the issues I have with the Angels episodes that aren't the first one that are Blink, and it's that they add more to it, and they change it, and it adapts, and it just detracts an awful lot from.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. You have an idea that's really great and hugely popular.
Leave it the fuck alone.
Yes, it's very tempting to go, well, let's do more with that again. But no, don't fucking do it. Because you just add more to it and it ruins it.
I did a not a painting. I did a drawing of a cat in year 4 primary school, years and years ago now. God knows how long. I could do the maths, I can't be bothered. And it was a fucking fantastic drawing. And then we had to watercolour it. And sadly, I'm not very good at watercolours. And so the picture went from being a really, really good drawing to a fucking awful picture I despised. Despite the fact that I'd put hours of work into making it look good.
Yes.
And that's what you need to do, Russell, is you need to leave it well enough alone. Leave the sketch alone.
Less is more. You've done it. That work is completed. Don't revisit it. You couldn't possibly add anything more to Midnight.
Did he do Midnight?
Yes.
Okay.
He wrote it.
I know he didn't do Blink, did he?
No, that was Moffat.
Yeah.
Well, oh shit! Hang on, I pulled myself off. Ow.
Oh, for God's sake! Well, in that case, I was reading a thing earlier about how then they were talking about Blink being their favourite episode. But it's funny that it's not a Russell T Davies episode.
Yes, it is. Well, he didn't write this one alone, but even so,
no, he had help with this one.
And it's sort of tempting to put the blame on the other writer, but
I mean, Russell's a showrunner. At the end of the day, their decisions all go through him.
And he wrote Midnight. He knows how good it is. There's a quote from a Kim Newman review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which was directed by Toby Hooper, who was the same guy who directed the first one. And Kim Newman said that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is not only a film that doesn't appear to have been directed by the same director as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but has been directed by somebody who hasn't seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
And that's
it feels appropriate. Yeah.
That's sort of what I feel about Midnight.
So it's like if someone who didn't quite understand why Midnight was good.
Yeah.
has tried to, and don't get me wrong, and the tone was right. I thought the tone
Yeah.
was right. I thought the premise was right. It just doesn't feel right.
Tonally, it's got a lot going for it, especially in that first
Yeah.
bit, right?
Yeah.
But when it's like we said last time, it's not a good idea to remind people of better things.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
I watched Midnight, and it's still great. It's still fucking great. But if somebody watched that and or just remembers it as being a creepy episode with nothing else going on, and there's so much going on in Midnight.
There really is.
It's fucking brilliant. You
The
know?
I think we do need to talk about the solution, as it were, towards the end of the end of the episode,
Yeah.
because they do think they've defeated the creature, don't they? By using the Mercury as a mirror.
Yeah.
Sensible, makes sense.
Mm.
You know, I can live with that. They do then talk about they run away.
Yeah.
Airlock. Some of them get away, and then the four of them are left in waiting for the airlock to cycle. And it turns out that one of them has been nabbed by the monster.
Which doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't get it. But I'm just going to accept that it's a thing that happened because it's easier.
I'm not.
At this point,
You've given up. I'm not going to accept it. I think it doesn't make any sense. Why did it smash all the mirrors if the mirrors don't matter? I don't. So, which sort of implies that it has to attack whatever's behind it or something. I don't know.
yeah, but it doesn't.
You need.
This is the issue that Russell has. Is either he under-explains or he over-explains.
You need rules for this sort of thing,
Yes.
right? And as little as we know about the entity in Midnight, there are rules. You can see what's happening. You understand the deal with it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not sure I do understand the deal with this thing. It's just whatever Russell thinks is creepiest.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it'd be creepier if they hadn't discovered a monster.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
If it hadn't been a monster all this time.
Well,
if we got a psycho ending for this,
yeah,
and the implication is actually she's done it all.
there was a scene
But
where
we don't know that she's done it all.
there was a scene where it focused on her face and it sort of looked like she was about to smile, like she was possessed by something.
I saw that, and I swear to God, the note I had before that was Death Girl survives, therefore the thing that caused it all is it drives people mad with sound thing. Then we had that face, and I was like, well, maybe it was her, I suppose.
Well, I like your thinking, with regards to the episode we wrote, well, not wrote, but discussed about the planet covered in water. Yeah. Okay, so the gist of that, a while ago, we decided we didn't follow through.
We could do this.
We were going to make our own series of Doctor Who, and one of the episodes, really, I came up with was that Doctor and his companion are bored one day, and he mentions a story he's heard a few times about a planet that's covered completely in water that might have some creepy shit going on. So they go there, and the TARDIS crashes into the sea, and they manage to get on a raft, and the rest of the episode is just the Doctor and companion steadily going mad as they're in this completely calm sea and questioning what the fuck is going on and whether there's a monster or something, and the Doctor's like hallucinating. And they get out there, and it turns out there was nothing wrong with it at all. It was just a planet of water, and they just drove themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And I agree with what you're saying about this episode. So I guess you'd open with they'd be telling stories about this planet that's like haunted or something, and now this colony's gone quiet, and they're wondering what the fuck has gone on, and you sort of suggest that there's an alien entity or something, and it turns out there was just like a leak of mercury gas or something, and they all went nuts. I don't know. But I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't need to be this it doesn't need to be a sequel, like you say.
No.
It would have worked if it hadn't been. If they adapted. I understand why they did it. I understand it. I don't agree with it. You know, and I don't want to say one of the things I've tried to steer away from is trying to be. This is how you could have done it better for anything other than like a massive point. And it's still bugging me that one massive point. I'll come to it afterwards. but this is an episode that fundamentally it had all the makings of a fantastic episode, a best in the series,
Yeah.
maybe best in the regeneration
Yeah.
style episode,
Yeah.
and it ended up being weak because it was trying to follow on from something that was magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a sequel only ever goes one of two ways, and normally it's down.
Yeah.
Right? You're better off ignoring it, and we've said it, and I don't know how many times people are going to have to say it. It's just it wasn't the right call. I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
It's not to say it's not to say there aren't. I mean, we've discussed the problems with the creature's modus MO. You know, that's a bit weird, but tonally, it's there's something in here. You know, but
yeah, there is definitely something there.
Anyway, yeah. So Belinda gets possessed.
Yeah, oh, we're led to believe that she's been possessed.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, because it's not 100% clear, but the way she acts and the way that the camera work is done, it's implied that she's been possessed or latched onto. Let's say latched onto because it seems a bit more.
Yeah.
You know, so they decide to shoot her to quote unquote kill her, so that the creature jumps off and then goes to the sharpshooter woman.
Yeah.
Who then immediately does a 180 turn.
I know, right?
Runs out the room, complete disregard for who might be right behind her.
Yeah.
In that line of, you know, the killing line, if you will.
Yeah.
And that fucking.
Yeah, she should. I know, right? She should have ran backwards. It's like immediately forgetting everything we've established.
You know, and then she ran and did an Ellen Ripley.
She did.
By which I mean she jumped down. She fell down the well, didn't she? She did a backwards dive.
She let herself fall. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in an attempt to get this creature killed. And again, there's a lot of things about this that remind me of the Alien franchise. This was just the icing on the cake at that point. But I mean, there's a bit earlier on where they like nuke it from orbit, and it's like, yes, that's exactly what they say they should have done in Aliens. I think it's word for word. I know it's only 4 words, but still, you know.
It does beg the question why nobody, when this whole thing kicked off and everybody was going fucking nuts, why nobody attempted to shoot themselves then?
Well, that's the thing. I was wondering what happens if you kill yourself.
I don't know.
I did say I made a note of that actually. Where was it? Yeah. So it's right after the Midnight sequel bit. Like the next note I made about 4 minutes later was, "What if you kill yourself?" So it must have been when she was talking about how if you kill the person. But it's just.
It's like there's.
Oh, sorry. We needed to. Yeah, but it turns out it may have left the planet still.
Yeah.
Somehow. It may be on the ship,
which sort of implies it was always on the other woman, and she let this shit happen. Which means that
she was so. I thought it was her, and then we got the whispering while we were looking at Belinda, and I was like, okay, fair enough.
And then,
but it's just you know, because she was so adamant it wasn't her mode, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Mo was so adamant.
I mean, for something with so many, not like established as having clear rules, doesn't have very many clear rules. You know?
No, it's inconsistent, isn't it? Is the issue, and that's the issue with any of these sorts of, and that was the issue I had with Weeping Angels.
Yeah,
the rule was inconsistent. It worked the first time because we, it broke the fourth wall by having us viewing it, stopping them from being able to move. The minute they changed that, they destroyed a lot of the power that the Angels had in terms of a storytelling device. Here by being inconsistent with how it works, even within this one episode, it just doesn't. It cancels out a lot of the groundwork that they put in. And this is what I'm saying. I wanted to really like this. The start of this, I was loving the tone. I was loving the idea that there's this one survivor of this crazy incident, and they're trying to work out what it is. I love a good murder mystery.
Yeah,
you don't get an awful lot of good murder mysteries, sadly, these days.
Yeah,
I love the fact that this could have been something that I was even willing to overlook the fact that it seems a bit derivative in places, and yet.
Well, you could argue
because it's even sort of trying to ape Blink in a way with that ending.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, it's just it shoots itself in the foot repeatedly.
It's just I'd have liked it more if it wasn't for the Midnight Connection. But the Midnight Connection just it was really interesting going back and watching Midnight, because you do
Yeah.
see how Russell has changed as a writer and as a showrunner.
Got worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I do just sort of think it's a really it's not like, well, the other episodes that have been on this, you can probably find an episode that's sort of
On par.
not well matches that you can compare,
Okay.
right? But it's not never so clear as with this, because you're inherently establishing yourself as a sequel.
Yeah, that is your direct point of comparison.
Yeah. So you
And
go.
if you don't live up to that reputation,
Yes.
you've ruined it for yourself.
So you go to Midnight, and there's just so much going on, and it's so well played.
See
and
what they're gonna do if they wanted to do a Midnight sequel, they needed to keep the monster hidden away from us. They needed to make it unclear exactly what was going on in the first place. Maybe do the Psycho style ending that I'd suggested, but again, I'm not 100% sold on that. It's just having spent the day half thinking about it. That's the best I can think of at the moment. But it's not my fucking job to write it.
Well, yeah.
And if you're gonna make it a Midnight sequel, make it a reveal after the fact. Have the story resolved, and have the Doctor realise that was Midnight.
Yeah,
I think that's how you do it.
Maybe you could do a thing where he helps colonize the planet. Like, that's the story. You've got to overcome an obstacle.
So you make it a prequel.
Yeah, you make it a prequel to Midnight. He helps the leisure palace company set up on there, and then or
Doctor,
whatever.
what do you think we should call this planet? Oh, I don't know. Just come up with something yourself. Oh, how does Midnight sound?
See, the issue there is that he'd recognise it immediately with the extonic radiation and stuff.
Well, he didn't, did he?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you could do something. Maybe. But you shouldn't.
Honestly, I think it should have been. I think it should have been a maybe other. If you're doing it to prequel, maybe it is all coal.
Yeah.
And if they have to do something, gravity shifts somehow, and it ends up crushing the coal into the diamonds, and he helps create the planet in the first place in the way that it is. And that's why you don't get the reveal until after. And you don't necessarily have all the creepy shit going on. Maybe a little bit of creepy shit. But like it's oh my god, he has set up his own problem.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not. I mean, I guess it's an interesting thought exercise. You know, if someone held a gun to my head and said, "Make a sequel or prequel to Midnight,"
yeah,
it's like I would never willingly do that under any other circumstances. Like
didn't need doing.
Yeah, not even as a thought experiment would I do that. There's just there's no point.
No.
So yeah, they escape, and
Mrs. Flood.
Well, she's giving her report, isn't she? One of the surviving.
Yeah, Mo.
Yeah,
Mo is giving her report.
Is giving her report. I wonder if Mrs. Flood filed that report or whether she just fucked off. I don't know. But Mrs. Flood is the superior officer.
Yes.
And is like, oh, clever, very clever. He's.
I think I've solved it, by the way.
Solved what?
I think I've solved who she is.
Who is she?
She's River, but she's bi-generation River.
Well, yeah,
because there's a point where River regenerated in Let's Kill Hitler.
Okay.
And I'm suggesting that this is a version of her that is sort of aware of what's happened with the other River, the one that we saw die, and this is her having gotten old because that's a thing she can do, and the whole flood thing. They just used the same fucking trick they used the first time round, where it was that's the word they have for pond. And because we don't know her first name, do we?
No.
I can see it being a River song, and I'm gonna be so pissed if it is because it's cheap and it's weak, and it shouldn't be that case. It needs to be something. It needs to be worth the payoff. If you're gonna do a 2-series fucking lead up to it,
Jordan,
it needs to be worth it.
Jordan.
It's not going to be worth it, I know.
It's never going to be worth it. We know that by now. This is not going to live up to any sort of expectations. We're going to rip it apart. There's going to be real issues with it. There's going to be shit that's not explained or doesn't make sense.
It used to be better, man. I'm sure. I'm sure it used to be better.
It did. I've watched Midnight. It's fucking great.
No, but I mean the series as a whole.
What do you mean?
Like the series and the series arc and all that kind of shit. I'm sure it was better before.
What, last series?
No, not necessarily last season, just previously.
Well,
Previous
yeah.
seasons.
I mean, we took
The whole the payoff at the end for the
yeah.
arc, the subtle arc throughout. It used to be better.
We
But
talked
no.
about Bad Wolf and Torchwood and Harold Saxon stuff like that.
Yeah, even the Doctor's name thing wasn't that bad.
I wasn't
It's
really
a
watching.
bit cheesy, but
Yeah, it knows his name. The Midnight Entity knows his name, I guess, because it's been in his head before.
yeah, I suppose so.
It's just.
Although was it ever really in his head?
I don't think so.
Because they were the whole idea was that it hadn't actually possessed the Doctor. It
No.
still possessed what's her face, hadn't it?
Yeah, it was sort of. It had stolen enough and he was sort of connected to it in some way that's never really explained.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it not being explained because the entire
No,
point is
absolutely.
you'd never find out.
Yeah, it was a oh my god, this is a creepy thing that happened. Let's stay the fuck away from here.
Yeah, that's some of the best Doctor Who episodes, like the Impossible Planet, the Satan Pit. The Doctor doesn't know. I don't know what the fuck that was. It's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that must be serious. You don't know.
Language so old, even the TARDIS won't translate.
Yeah, that's fucking great. I love that.
It's just it works. There's an element of mystery, a bit element of fear to it that just exists. And I wasn't scared watching, other than when I was literally jump scared by the sound because
Yeah.
I wasn't looking.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared by this episode. And
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily scared by Midnight when I was watching it when it was new because I don't think I've seen it that many times, to be honest with you. It doesn't necessarily scare me, but it did unsettle me.
Yes.
And that I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel unsettled by this. I felt maybe it's because I'm older and it takes more to make me piss myself in fear these days. But you know, it's just
Well, it was hard for me because I've seen Midnight so many times. I wasn't scared or unsettled. I was just sort of watching it and appreciating it. But I was scared and unsettled the first time.
yeah, it's an unsettling episode. This is just it's trying. It isn't quite getting there. The tone was right to start with, but it went downhill when it became apparent what it was as a story.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I say. I really wanted to like this. I was right up until the midnight reveal. I was liking this as an episode because it wasn't obvious what was going on, and it could have ended up as a mystery. But the minute it became a midnight sequel, it flipped the narrative. It's just.
I mean, it's like so many times I've said watching these newer last season and this season, and saying there's a good episode in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, here it's in the first half of it.
Well, here it's in the original episode. It's a sequel to.
Well, yeah, and.
But yeah, there's some good stuff. The tone at the start is good. It's creepy. It sort of reminded me of the Villisca axe murder house because he'd covered. It was a family who'd been killed with axes, and the killer had covered all the mirrors, and it's like, why did you do that? You know. Yeah.
I liked the freak out that Ears had when people started dying while he was, you know. I know it was stupid, but that whole sequence where he makes what's his face, I don't know his name, but the guy who ended up flying over.
Yeah, I thought one was going to land on him.
He panics, and all these other people start.
Yeah,
getting killed by it. That worked for me because that sort of felt real. That people would panic in that circumstance and wonder what the fuck was going on, and it would get people killed. And then the solution for Sharpshooter Woman stopping it and doing the one thing she had to do, and absolutely agree with her. You know, in that circumstance, that was the right thing to do. I think.
Well,
that whole sequence worked for me.
I mean, on the one hand, it sort of plays into the rules thing. Like, why can't it? Why does it have to be behind a back? I don't understand any of that, and I don't care. It seems a bit contrived, and we need one of those horror rules, scary things like Freddy Krueger comes for you when you're sleeping in your dreams, and the It Follows monster is an STD or whatever.
And whatever you do, don't say "I'll be right back."
Yeah, but the thing that stood out to me about that scene, while I was watching all these soldiers get thrown about by this creepy monster, I just kept thinking of the subtle creepiness and the psychological shit and social horror, I guess, in Midnight.
Yes, and that's what made it scary, is that you could see that happening if you ignore the fact that there's a sci-fi monster involved in it, you could see the social element taking place in real life because it fucking does.
These were normal average people put in an extreme situation and to various extents snapping. Like you got the dad who's talking about throwing Sky out, and his wife. You get the impression he wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for his wife like egging him on.
Yeah.
And then you got the professor who sort of is in favor of it, but sort of is forced into doing it and doesn't really feel like he's up to it. And you got the kid, I say kid, Merlin, who looks about 30,
Yeah.
who
Colin Morgan, is it?
yeah, who is sort of freaked out and has some insight into maybe what's going on, but his parents are ignoring him. And there's the Dee Dee, the assistant, who's like steamrolled by her boss, who doesn't really regard her as anything more than like a someone to carry his shit. None of that. In no, let's just have people getting thrown about, and it can't. It's behind you, and it doesn't move from that point. It's at 12 o'clock behind you, midnight, and if you go behind it, you get thrown about. Oh,
Yeah, it's just it weakens. It's gone downhill since we've started talking. The more I think, because I mean, I watched it, I wrote the stuff that I was my notes about it, and then I sort of moved on for the most part. I
yeah,
had shit to do,
yeah.
right? But the more we talk about it, I'm less inclined to save it. I still think it's my favorite of the three,
Mm.
but not by as big a margin as it was before. I think it's a 5 out of 10. This one.
Yeah, I think, like I always say, there's a good episode in here, but you tie it to midnight and you put all these rules that don't really matter or make sense. Tonally, it's got a lot going for it. Um, the ending where it turns out it probably did escape or might have escaped. I guess that I
Yeah.
guess Alice is fucked. She's never getting home.
No, she's not, is she?
Just I don't know. Can you self-destruct the ship at that point? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. That's the logical thing for Mo to do at that point, but she
Yeah,
ain't gonna do it because she wants to go home as well.
yeah. And it's just like I mean, tonally, it's got a lot going for it. I like aspects of it, but it's to me, this is, if I'm honest, it's probably on the whole my least favorite of the three.
Okay. Well, I really didn't enjoy the other two all that much.
It
So
goes
that's
2
probably
1
why.
2 1 3 for me. Lux, the robot revolution, and this, the
I
pit, the
can't remember
well.
how I can't remember my thoughts exactly on the first two,
Mm,
but I prefer this one. I think.
mm. Watch
Um,
Midnight if you're watching. It's fucking great.
I mean, just watch the original Davies run, and
Yeah,
you'll see why this is so painful for me to
yeah,
do. Because it is getting painful, isn't it?
it
This
is.
doesn't hit my one of
No,
the two good episodes this season. I was umming and ahhing over it, and I don't think it does. I don't
no.
think it makes the cut. If we hadn't had this conversation, I think I would have let it slide into that position. But what that means now is that they've only got 5 episodes to do 2 good ones and make me want to carry on watching next year
Mm,
if there's another season.
mm,
Just let that sink in for a minute. They've got 5 chances left.
mm.
I'm not convinced they're going to manage it, and it's going to be a bit upsetting in a way
If
when they
there
fail.
if there was a new showrunner, would you?
I'd give it a go.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, it depends who it is. Because I don't think Moffat should come back to it. Because I thought Russell should come back to it, and look how that's panned out.
We're getting
And I'm sure it
Chris
shouldn't be
Chibnall.
Chibnall. If it's Chibnall, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that to myself.
Okay, fair enough.
I just can't. I can't do that to myself.
Well,
I know
Ruby.
it's only 45 minutes for 8 weeks of the year, but it's
Yeah.
this is so I don't. You don't necessarily go to see your dying granddad in hospital when he's all withered and you ruin some memory of him. But you
Want
had
to
to, yeah.
remember him in his prime, yeah.
Exactly. You don't. You know.
Well,
You should see your dead, dying relatives. By the way, it's just I'm a bitter young man that doesn't get on with his family. So that's
well, we've got Ruby coming back next time, and she's got a boyfriend.
when are they?
I don't know,
I don't know either, and I feel like that's something that matters.
but
Because yet again, we've had an episode where he hasn't said, "Oh, why don't we go to the 23rd of May? See if we can do that."
presumably it's Earth. Presumably,
It's got. I mean, my note is next week. Ruby's back. She's seeing a guy. They're back on Earth. Brackets when. And that's it. That's an entire note about that teaser for next week. And have you? I don't want to know what they are, but have you got spoilers for next week?
No, I don't. All I know is what
Okay.
was in the trailer, that she's being hunted by something.
Because I saw the main thread on Reddit. I looked at that this morning, whilst after I'd watched it,
Mm.
this one, and people were talking about how people were saying, "Oh well, this is something that had been leaked, and
Mm.
therefore people will be using this as oh well, because this is true, such and such will be true as well as part of the leak stuff." And I do everything I can to avoid leaks. When you told me you'd seen them, my immediate thought was keep them to your fucking self, and I'm pleased that you did with this because
Mm.
going into it, the midnight reveal did sort of work, and the only reason I was even thinking that it could be connected to midnight was because of a comment where someone said it might be cool if it was, not saying it was leaked, but it was.
Mm.
You know, and I can accept that sort of thing because it's speculation based on what we see, and it made sense. But going into this blind, not knowing it was a midnight sequel,
Mm.
I think probably improved it because I wasn't comparing from the offset.
Well, I was on the fence. I didn't know whether the leak I saw was true, and I heavily suspected it was, but maybe it was a different episode that was a sequel, or or maybe this was a sequel to a different episode. I didn't know, but if it hadn't been for the midnight thing, I still would have been. I'd have liked it more, but
Yeah.
it's still, the problems are still very much there.
So yeah, we don't know why they can't go back to the 23rd of May.
No.
And I can't remember seeing Belinda in the teaser.
I think I saw
Doesn't mean she
her.
wasn't there. I don't remember seeing her. It's a key thing to take into account. I don't remember seeing her. We didn't touch much on Mrs. Flood, and it's because I went on my River Song thing. But she is turning up and being. It is turned into a Susan Twist style appearance every episode.
Yeah.
Now, and that is annoying me somewhat.
Mm.
Because it's I've said it before. It's on the nose, and subtlety is where these things work best. That's why Bad Wolf worked, why Torchwood worked, why Howard Saxon worked, why in some ways it's why He'll Knock Four Times worked. You know, it's because okay, fine, the reveal of that was open, and then the end reveal of that was open, but there was a sort of mystery behind it that felt like a mystery, and this feels like an attempt to make us focus on it, if that makes sense. They want us to focus on it a lot and perhaps overlook other things because we're so focused on this thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just
misdirection. That's what it is. It's misdirection, I think.
I
just want a good trade-off, and we're not going to get it, like you say, but we deserve it. As fans, we deserve good quality. And I'm not going to write into Russell. If he wants to know what we think, he should fucking well come here to our YouTube channel and have a look, right? Because we're here every week, Russell.
Yeah.
Not just for Doctor Who.
We're
for 3 videos a week plus for Doctor Who.
We're showing up
all the Star Wars,
and we're doing the.
Find out what we think about Red Russell.
We're showing up and we're doing the fucking work, which is more than can be said for you, mate.
Yeah, but he's pawned half the work off to the other woman, hasn't he? In this one.
Yeah.
Palms, not pawns, palms.
It's just.
I assume that was a woman. I remember. I don't remember the name, but I remember reading it and thinking it was a woman, a feminine name.
I mean, this episode more than any other has sort of made me sort of feel a bit like giving up.
Oh, okay.
Because
don't kill yourself.
Because just
I know times are hard sometimes, but
because just
I'd be sad if you went, and that's the most you're getting out of me on the topic.
Well, watching Midnight and watching this, it was just so evident that it's not nostalgia.
See, what you need to remember is that you're seeing this from a fixed point in time compared to now. I have seen the decline in almost real time.
Yeah.
And I've been telling you this for a while, is that I don't think you truly appreciate how much it has fallen. Because you've not seen it happening.
I don't think
you've witnessed the after effect.
It's like, how the fuck did we go from Midnight to this?
How
did that happen?
Moffat, who did some fantastic work, and we went through Chibnall, who had some good episodes, and now we're back at Russell, who it seems is past his Doctor Who prime.
It's
And I
just
don't think
like,
I don't think that's a controversial thing to say.
mm,
A lot of people a lot of comments I see are either really in favour of it or really opposed to it. And the ones that are really opposed to it are split into two camps. Either Doctor Who died when Moffat stopped,
yeah.
or it's just too woke now.
I don't think it's
And
too woke.
I don't think it's too
I
woke. I
think
think if there'll be someone who's saying that the idea that we have to learn sign language for deaf people is probably some sort of woke statement. But I
yeah.
don't think. I think it makes sense that realistically sign language should be something that it would be nice if there was some sort of universal language that most people, it's a bit ableist, I suppose,
Yeah.
because it assumes you've got hands.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, it seems like it's decent. I think it wouldn't hurt for sign language to be taught to most people in school.
Mm,
Even
mm.
if it's just rudimentary sign language. I mean, I don't remember any of the fucking French I learned at school. Doesn't help that I started halfway through year 7.
Mm.
you know. What were we on? Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Well,
My little rant.
I don't know whether you've mentioned it, but you had a big point of what I would do differently that you didn't want to talk about something.
Oh no, it was the whole change the premise a bit
Oh yeah,
thing that we talked about. Where,
yeah.
I think prequel would have maybe have been better. If you have to do a midnight episode,
But you,
a midnight adjacent episode, I think prequel would have been better.
you don't have to. You don't have to do
No,
it.
I know, but if you had to, I think prequel would have been better.
Yeah, it's just
Visually, it worked better. Again, I cannot get over how much all the terrain looked like coal.
mm.
I can't. I just can't. I don't know if I got any picture of it.
Well, it was coal.
But it shouldn't have been coal.
Well, they mentioned that the diamonds turned to coal or something. Didn't
No, it's carbon 46 they call it, which is the stuff they're mining out. But they didn't say that it was coal it got turned into. I'm sure.
Hmm.
I don't remember it. Yeah,
I mean,
one of the pictures is them with the guns pointed at them.
if I wanted to be really nitpicky, and part of me does, the whole point of Midnight the Planet was that the diamonds were completely worthless because they'd been bombarded with radiation. You couldn't do
Yes.
anything with them. They just served as visually, it was aesthetically pleasing and quirky that there's a planet made of diamonds, and the tourism industry got a hold of it. You couldn't mine it and sell it,
Mm, yeah.
because it's soaked into the entire planet has been bombarded with radiation and it's soaked into everything.
See, that's a point that I hadn't remembered. But again, I've not seen Midnight for a few years now. So I, understandably, as someone who's seen it today, you would remember that better.
I mean, they said the sun died, I guess, or is now
Half-lives of
something.
radiation, I guess. But clearly, it's still a problem, isn't it? Or else they'd just be.
I don't know.
It's a weak episode that weakens the more you think about it. That's the problem. It had potential. They fucked it up.
Which is the complete opposite to Midnight, which is an episode that only gets stronger the more I think about it. But hey ho.
Are you excited for next week?
Well, I like Ruby, and I haven't entirely given up hope. Not entirely.
I'm not quite there. When we're 7 episodes in and I still don't like any of them, then I'll give up hope.
Put it this way: I know I'm as certain as I can be that we are not going to get an episode that we both sit here and go, that was really good. It felt like Doctor Who was back.
Is that because of the leaks that you've seen, or is that because of your understanding of how the show's gone and how we both think about these shows?
That's because we're like a season and a bit into this, and it hasn't happened yet. And the most I can conjure up is it's almost good. Well, there's good stuff about it, and you've hated almost everything.
I don't want to hate it. I really wanted to
I
like
know.
this one. I had such high hopes, and then it's let me down.
Yeah.
I feel let down, and I don't want to be one of those fan guys that's like, this show owes me, but in a way it kind of does.
It could be really, really good.
It's been 20 years, Ben. I know it's on and off 20 years, but it's been 20 years of our lives.
There's no reason Doctor Who can't be good again.
Yeah, just rewatch them from. What I need to do is I need to give up on this and start watching Classic Who, and then I can, and I can bitch about how Russell made it shit the first time.
Shall we watch Genesis of the Daleks?
I'll tell you what. Why do I am Why don't we watch the movie, and then we can
Maybe
we can
maybe we should do something like if we found like a top 10 greatest Classic Who episodes. You know,
Yeah, maybe. I remember seeing Earthshock, or most of it. Some of Earthshock.
we could watch the Pyramids of Mars with Sutek.
Oh, don't, because I know how it ends. It's just depressing. My conditions for watching next season are either liking 2 of them
Mm,
this year, which is at the moment looking unlikely, or a trade-off that genuinely makes me smile at the end. I
okay.
will, if either of those 2 things happen. I'd like to think you'd trust that I'm honest enough to
Yeah, I
admit
do, I
that
do.
happens.
Or a new showrunner,
Or a new showrunner, yes.
which I shouldn't think we'll get, but we'll have to see.
I think it's more likely to be cancelled than they do a new showrunner.
Well,
because at this point, BBC will cut their losses and Disney will cut their losses.
well, we'll have to see. But thanks for joining us.
I mean, I'd fucking do it. I'm sure we could make it work.
Yeah, we could do it.
You know, we've already got 1 episode in the bag because I didn't do the water one.
Let's make it super woke.
Super woke. Oh my god, he'd be wearing a pride flag, and he'll regenerate every episode between a man and a woman.
Yes.
And then one time it'll happen, he'll transition, and he'll regenerate, but it won't be obvious that he's transitioned into the opposite gender, and it'll turn out they're actually non-binary.
I would be far simpler than that. I just have the Doctor introduce himself with his pronouns every episode.
Yeah, but what would the Doctor's pronouns be? Time/Lord.
He, them.
Ah, yeah. Well, surely they then makes more sense.
Well, yeah. That makes some fucking heads explode, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Barry from Wigan, who's 65 and somehow still watches this show.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it went weird.
Got a faded semen stained poster of Sarah Jane Smith on his wall. He's had since he's 16.
Well.
Anyway,
This took a turn.
on that note,
Yeah.
that was the well.
Well.
Well,
It didn't do very
well.
well, did it?
It didn't do very well, did it?
No, I just said that.
No, I just said that.
Shut up, you.
Shut up, you. Oh, God, he's stolen my voice. Bye.